Discover the incredible truth, how a hidden crisis could unite hearts and change lives forever. Rain lashed against the worn windows of Sarah's modest home in Maplewood, each drop sounding like a warning bell. The fierce winds whipped through the trees, ripping branches from their trunks. Sarah held her breath as the storm wailed around her, her heart echoing the tempest. All she could think of was Alex, her 10-year-old son, tucked in bed, blissfully unaware of the chaos outside. But then the sound of shattering glass snapped her reality. In one swift moment, her world tilted. Hours later, as dawn broke over a battered Maplewood, Sarah surveyed her home, feeling hollow. Debris lay everywhere, furniture was flipped, and the roof had holes that gaped like open wounds. Tears pricked her eyes, not just for her home but for the dreams she had meticulously built for Alex. With 2 jobs, Sarah fought daily against the crushing weight of bills and responsibilities. She wanted to see her son in college, exploring horizons she never reached. Yet, standing here in the wreckage, hope felt as distant as the stars, but as the sun rose, so did her neighbors. One by one, families arrived, equipped with tools and worn-out smiles. "We heard about the storm, Sarah," a kind voice called out. It was Mrs. Thompson, clutching a plate of cookies, an old Maplewood tradition wrapped in a modern embrace of community support. But as Sarah accepted the help, knotted shoulders and suspicious glances from some came as sharp reminders of the biases lurking beneath their serene town. They eyed her dilapidated car and the patched-up clothes she wore. Was their assistance surface deep, simply rooted in charity? "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Amid the hammers and saws, Sarah felt a sudden rift coursing through her body. She was grateful, yet ashamed. The weight of their judgment felt heavier than the debris beneath her feet. And at that moment, as she tried to smile through the bright patches of kindness, she felt a growing divide seep into her family. Alex, watching the stark reality of their situation unfold, questioned everything. His innocence began cracking under the pressure of adult concerns and financial strain. In their home, the warmth of shared dreams was leaked away, their hopes now turned into arguments about sacrifices and futures. Then the town announced an event honoring local heroes. A chance to stand tall, to be seen, to wipe the slate clean. But should she forgive the whispers of judgment? Should she lay bare her struggles? Perhaps this was the key to healing old wounds and building a stronger Maplewood. Just as she thought it, the shadows of doubt clouded her vision. Could she chase recognition and unity at the cost of her own dreams? As she stood, surrounded by the faces of neighbors she once called friends, the question loomed larger than before: could old wounds heal, and would she be brave enough to lead the charge into a brighter tomorrow? Tomorrow held the answers, but today was a tipping point. Sarah woke up to a new day, but that familiar knot in her stomach remained. The night after the storm was filled not with restful sleep, but with the quiet tremors of anxiety and uncertainty. All those neighbors who had stepped forward yesterday with tools and cookies, what if they saw her as a project instead of a person? She got up, ruffling through the heap of clothes in her bedroom, settling for a faded t-shirt and jeans. Staring in the mirror, she practiced a smile. She desperately wanted to convince herself that everything would be all right, that the upcoming event could change everything. Yet, beneath the surface, fear lurked. What if no one cared? What if revealing her struggles only deepened the chasm between her and her friends? Outside, the remnants of the storm still lingered. Wet leaves blanketed the streets, and the smell of damp earth filled the air. Alex bounded down the staircase, his hair sticking up at odd angles. "Mom! Can we go help today?" His enthusiasm was contagious, but Sarah hesitated. What if today didn't unfold as she hoped? Yes, honey, she finally replied, mustering optimism as best as she could. Let us go see what we can do. The neighborhood was a tapestry of support and collective effort. As they stepped outside, Sarah took a moment to breathe. She could hear laughter and the shouts of children. Some of the same faces from yesterday now looked more relaxed, their severity replaced with determination. It was impossible to remain detached amid this sea of resilience. As they worked side by side, Sarah noticed something remarkable. For every swinging hammer, there was a shared laugh, every nail driven simultaneously partnering the rhythm with an encouraging word. The days of whispers and judgment faded into the background. The divisions she feared barely existed in the face of tangible solidarity. "Hey, Alex," called Jimmy, the boy from 2 houses down, "wanna help me haul these boards?" Alex nodded eagerly, racing off without a second thought. Watching him, Sarah marveled at her son's ability to connect at such a level with kids from different backgrounds, different circumstances. The realization hit her, maybe it was possible for her to bridge that gap too. As the sun began to set, casting a warm hue over Maplewood, Sarah felt a weight begin to lift. She joined a small circle of neighbors who were swapping stories about their childhoods and dreams. One by one, they shared vulnerabilities, job loss, health struggles, unfulfilled aspirations. It transformed the gathering, it became a haven of healing instead of a facade of perfect lives. But when Mrs. Thompson spoke about a child in need who lived near them, Sarah felt her heartbeat quicken. Mrs. Thompson's words echoed in her mind. Sometimes the heroes we need don't wear capes. They just need someone to believe in them. It struck a chord deep within Sarah. She had clung to pride, but maybe vulnerability could be a form of strength. Was it time to step into the light and be honest about her own struggles? As night fell, illuminating the scene with soft lanterns, Sarah's resolve strengthened. Tomorrow's event wouldn't just celebrate heroes, it could ignite compassion and solidarity across Maplewood. All those feelings she kept tightly wrapped would be laid bare on the table, perhaps revealing a path to unity. But what if sharing her truth backfired? What if the very people she hoped to connect with turned away instead? The weight of those possibilities loomed in her mind, a bittersweet reminder of how far she had come, yet how fragile everything still felt. With tomorrow fast approaching, she felt more than anxious, she felt alive. And as she turned to head home, she wondered if her heart could lead her to the answers she craved. Would she find the courage to be the bridge that unites them all? The sun rose with a gentle glow, casting vibrant colors across the Maplewood sky. Sarah stood at the window, the warmth filtering through the glass, bringing a moment of calm before the impending storm of emotions. Today was the day. Her heart raced as she gripped the fabric of her shirt, reminding herself to breathe. "Mom, are you ready?" Alex's voice broke through her reverie. His excitement reverberated through the house, and for a fleeting moment, she envied his carefree spirit. "Just a minute," she called back, forcing her feet into motion. As she prepared, she replayed her thoughts like a mantra. Today is about connection, strength, and truth. When they arrived at the community center, a buzz of activity surrounded the entrance. Banners flapped gently overhead, and tables were laden with delicious snacks and drinks. The air was filled with the aroma of coffee mingling with freshly baked goods. Neighbors greeted each other with wide smiles. The warmth was infectious, and Sarah felt herself relax, albeit just a little. "It's going to be amazing," Alex said, gripping her hand. "Everyone is here for each other." "Yeah, they sure are." She fought her nerves, determined to see the good in the crowd. They made their way inside, and Sarah's heart pounded louder. She needed to find the right moment, the right words. As the event began, Mrs. Thompson took the stage, rallying the crowd with her kind voice. "Today, we celebrate those who have shown us what community means." Applause erupted around Sarah, and she felt the warmth of shared spirit binding them together. She watched her neighbors engage, share stories, and support one another. Laughter rang out, snatches of conversation filled the air, and she yearned to feel that connection too. The moments of vulnerability she experienced in the past few days sang to her the feeling of belonging, of safety. Sarah. A familiar voice pulled her from her thoughts. It was Megan, her old friend from down the street. They hadn't spoken in ages. With a bright smile and open arms, she embraced Sarah tightly. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I had to," Sarah managed, pulling back to look at Megan. "I needed to be here, for everyone." "What's on your mind?" Megan asked, concern creeping into her expression. Sarah's heart swelled. This was a friend who understood the dance of emotions they were all navigating. Actually. Sarah hesitated, the weight of her truth lingering unspoken. Could she share the struggles that had shaped her? Just then, a voice interrupted between her anxious thoughts. "Let's get started," said another neighbor, Sam, stepping up with a bright smile. He coordinated the day's activities with such energy that the crowd settled into cheerful murmurs. Okay. It's game time." He laughed. "But first, let's hear from Sarah. She has a story to share." The spotlight was suddenly on her, and Sarah felt her heart drop. The room quieted, eyes turning. This was her moment, the door to her truth. She stammered, gripping the microphone. And just as she opened her heart to begin, a familiar child's laughter rang out behind her. Jimmy, with his boundless energy, darted forward and stumbled, nearly crashing into her. Everyone laughed, breaking the icy tension in the air. Relief flooded over Sarah, her heart lightening at the interruption. Maybe this was a sign. Maybe the universe was nudging her towards connection. "All right, buddy, you okay?" she asked, kneeling beside him. "Yeah. That was funny. Can we play some games?" He beamed up at her, joy radiating from his small frame. Sarah chuckled, her nerves melting away. "Why don't you go join the others? I'll be right there." As he dashed off, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Maybe, just maybe, she could find the strength to share her story after all. She just needed a moment, a little more bravery. Wouldn't hurt, but as she felt that spark of courage rise again, a nagging worry crossed her mind. Could she truly handle the reactions of those she cared about? With her heart pounding, she paused, not yet ready to leap. Instead, she silently asked herself the question lingering in the air: was she really prepared to bear her truth before them all? As Sarah stood there, her thoughts whirling, she caught sight of subtle nods of encouragement from the crowd. Faces she recognized from school pickups, community potlucks, and casual encounters now blended into a supportive sea of anticipation. A shift happened within her. Maybe today was not just about her but about everyone here who knew struggle and celebration intertwined. With a deep breath, she glanced at Mrs. Thompson, who smiled brightly, urging her to continue. Sarah took another step toward the microphone, her fingers twitching nervously around its base. Hi everyone, she started, her voice barely carrying over the room's quiet hum. "I wanted to talk a little about how we can sometimes feel alone, even in a crowd." The laughter from moments ago faded into a soft stillness. As she spoke, she noticed a few people leaning forward, really listening. It brought her some strength. "There have been times when I felt disconnected from everyone. Like I didn't belong." The words tumbled from her lips, raw and real. "I've struggled with that for a long time until I realized I wasn't alone in feeling that way." The room shifted again. It was no longer just about her story but about the shared experiences they had faced together. She locked eyes with Megan, who nodded encouragingly. Sarah felt more grounded. "I've been through a lot lately," she continued, her heart hammering against her chest. "But being here today, seeing all of you, has reminded me how crucial our connections really are." Suddenly, she saw Jimmy bounding back toward her, a paper crown perched daringly on his head. "Look! I'm the king!" His enthusiastic proclamation brought involuntary smiles, easing the tension again. "Absolutely, King Jimmy," she laughed. "You keep ruling over the games." Everyone joined in the laughter, and Sarah reveled in how quickly the atmosphere could change. Once the joy subsided, she turned back to the crowd. "Really, I want to say that it's okay to feel vulnerable. Sharing our troubles doesn't make us weak. It connects us." A few murmurs of agreement rippled through the audience. A handful of neighbors nodded as if they were stirring memories of their own struggles. It felt as if a veil had lifted in the room, raw feelings hovered in the air, urging everyone to acknowledge pain and love in the same breath. As Sarah's words sank in, tears pricked her eyes. When we allow ourselves to be real with each other, we create a space for healing. We support each other, and in that support, we find strength. Just then, something changed in the back of her mind, an instinct kicking in. This was more than just a story, it was an invitation. "I'm here today because I want to stand with all of you, to celebrate, yes, but also to listen and learn. I want to hear your stories too." The room remained quiet for a moment, absorbing her invitation. Then, without warning, the space erupted into applause. It started small but grew into a roaring wave of appreciation pouring out toward Sarah. Feeling a rush of warmth flush through her, she glanced down at her feet, unsure of how to process the support flooding toward her. What she didn't expect was for Megan to step forward. "Sarah, I want to share something too." She paused, taking a deep breath. "Please, let me tell you about what I've been facing." Sarah's heart soared with hope as the crowd parted for her friend. Could this be the moment they all needed? Just as Megan began to speak, the atmosphere thickened with a palpable mixture of vulnerability and anticipation. Would they be brave enough to open their hearts together? It was a leap into the unknown once more, and this time, Sarah was ready to dive in alongside them. Megan steadied herself at the mic, her eyes scanning the crowd. It was like standing at the edge of a high dive, ready to plunge into the deep end, the weight of unshared words pressing down on her. "Hi everyone, I'm nervous," she began, laughter fluttering through the audience like leaves in the wind. "But I think it's time I open up a little. Sarah, thank you for inviting us all to share." Her voice was soft at first, shaky as she grasped for the right words. The crowd responded to her vulnerability with nods of encouragement, and she smiled, finally feeling a little heat rising in her chest, enough to ignite her courage. "I never thought I'd be talking about this today, but I guess this is my moment." Just as she cleared her throat, a small thump came from the back. It was Jimmy, dragging a big cardboard box across the floor. "Look! I found treasure!" he shouted, eyes wide. The box flopped open, revealing an array of colorful toys and board games. Laughter erupted again, but Megan didn't let it distract her. She continued, her voice taking on more strength, "I've been hiding. For months now, I've been dealing with my own battles, pretending everything was fine." She paused, taking a deep breath as a few friends leaned in closer. "But it's not fine. I lost my job last year, and I've been too scared to tell anyone." Gasps echoed through the crowd, and Sarah felt her heart pulse with empathy. They didn't know, none of them knew the weight Megan had carried in silence. But standing here, she was no longer alone. "I thought I could manage on my own, that I didn't want to be a burden," Megan pressed on, her voice trembling slightly. "But then I saw how Sarah talked about feeling disconnected. And I realized I'm not alone. We're not. We all have our struggles." Her eyes glistened, and the crowd was silent, each member longing to share their own truth yet captivated by Megan's bravery. Tears gently streamed down her cheeks as she added, "I'm tired of pretending. I want to be part of this community, to connect, to share. I need your help and support too." Sarah felt the rush of emotions in the air. There was a hum of recognition, as if others were stepping forward, feeling their own burdens lift. A hand shot up from the back, it was Mrs. Thompson, visibly moved. Megan, thank you for sharing that. She stepped closer to the mic. I've been feeling stuck myself. I lost my husband a year ago, and I always thought I had to be the strong one. But I need to let others in, too. The floodgates opened. Mike from the local hardware store spoke up next. I've been going through therapy for my anxiety, he confessed, and I never thought I'd share that publicly, but here I am. One by one, people began to rise and share. Stories of loss, anxiety, and fear flowed like a torrent, weaving through the room, each voice mixing into a new kind of symphony. As laughter and tears mingled, Sarah felt the weight of hope settle. This was it, the monumental moment of truth that transformed the space. We all belong here, she whispered, squeezing Megan's hand. But as she looked around at everyone sharing their lives so openly, she couldn't shake the feeling that something more profound was happening. This wasn't just a gathering, it was a reckoning. We need to do something with all of this, she said, her mind racing. What if we created a regular meetup, a place to share, learn, and support one another? The room buzzed with excitement. Plans were spoken, and visions blossomed. Just as things began to settle into a rhythm, a sudden crash from the back startled everyone. The cardboard box tumbled, spilling toys and games everywhere, a chaotic reminder that as imperfect as life was, together they could weather it. And in that moment, as they all dove into the mess together, Sarah realized something startling. They were not just sharing their stories, they were forging their futures. But what else would be uncovered when they took that leap into vulnerability? What deeper connections awaited them just beneath the surface? The laughter and chatter filled the room like the scent of fresh coffee on a chilly morning. The atmosphere had shifted, it was lighter yet filled with a different kind of weight. People were still picking up toys and games, organizing the chaos together as if they were physically piecing together their fragmented stories. Sarah watched them with a sense of bewilderment and warmth, realizing how simple moments could intertwine lives so deeply. Megan stepped away from the mic, her cheeks still damp but lit with a newfound glow. She was surrounded by friends, each one eager to pull her back into the fold. You did amazing, Megan, one of them said, squeezing her arm. Another chimed in, now we can really get to know each other. The collective excitement buzzed with promise. As the last stray toy was returned to the box, the crowd quieted again. Sarah felt a swell of motivation rising within her. Okay, so how do we get this started? She asked, leaning forward, her hands resting on the edge of the table. They began brainstorming ideas, enthusiasm cascading in waves. Voices overlapped, each speaking louder with excitement and determination. What if we set up a weekly discussion group? A young woman suggested. We can take turns sharing our stories or just listen to each other. We could even do activities. Chimed another, vibrating with energy. Yoga, art classes, maybe even cooking lessons. I love this. Sarah shouted, and everyone turned. Let's make it a community festival. We can invite everyone and have booths where we share our experiences and activities. Her heart raced as she spoke, envisioning a day where fear and stigma would melt away, leaving behind only connection and courage, but not everyone shared the same fervor. In the back, she noticed a familiar face. Susan, a quiet woman who rarely spoke up, was standing with her arms crossed. Her eyes followed every idea with a disbelief that felt heavy. Sarah sensed the ambivalence, a spark of fear, and a hint of rejection, swirling behind those guarded eyes. Taking a deep breath, she decided to address it head-on. Susan, Sarah called, her voice steady but inviting. What are you thinking? A ripple of silence fell upon the room. It was as if everyone held their breath, awaiting her response. Susan hesitated, then stepped forward, visibly wrestling with her feelings. I don't know if this will work, she admitted. What if we start getting too close and it hurts? We're all dealing with our own issues already. It sounds beautiful, but what if it starts to feel too messy? Everyone shifted, considering her words like a siren song filled with caution. Megan stepped back to the mic, her voice soft but firm. I get that. It's scary to be vulnerable. But what if that mess is a part of healing? I mean, we've already experienced some messiness tonight, and look at how we've bonded. As they listened to Megan, Sarah recognized that their fears were valid. The messy truth of vulnerability bore the potential for both connection and hurt. There were no easy fixes, life was tangled like that box of toys. The tension was palpable, like waiting for a storm to break. Susan, I promise you won't be left behind, Sarah added gently. We're all here to look out for one another. We'll take it one step at a time. We don't have to dive in all at once. It's okay to be hesitant. As Susan's expression softened just a bit, a murmur of agreement rippled through the group. They were ready to embrace the uncertainty, the beauty in the mess. In that moment of fragile understanding, Sarah felt a shiver run through her. They were at a turning point, individuals stepping into something greater than themselves, a community healing together. But as she looked around at their eager faces, anticipation gnawed at her heart. What if not everyone felt the same way? What other barriers lay hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? Let us take a few moments, she suggested, feeling the weight of the room settle. If you're up for it, try sharing just one thing that scares you about this. Let us lay it all out. As the group broke into hesitant discussions, Sarah felt the tension in the air thicken. Were they truly ready to explore the depths of their fears? Or was this just the beginning of something far more complicated? The whispers filled the room like fireflies on a warm summer evening, tentative yet shining. Sarah watched as faces turned to one another, eyes searching for common ground. The air pulsed with nervous energy, a mixture of uncertainty and the hope of what's to come. One by one, they began to share. A man with a graying beard spoke first, his voice trembling. I've lost more than I can count. Friends, family, it just feels like every step forward takes me 2 steps back. He paused, swallowing hard, his gaze dropping to the floor. From the other side of the table, a young woman, perhaps in her 20s, raised her hand. I'm terrified of being alone, she said, her voice so small it barely reached the group. Every time I reach out, it feels like I'm pushing them away instead. The air thickened with empathy as others leaned in, their expressions softening, nodding in understanding. It was like unwrapping a gift, layer by layer, revealing raw feelings that were buried deep inside. Even Sarah felt a tear slip down her cheek. She blinked it away, knowing how important this moment was. As the circle of sharing continued, Sarah glanced at Susan. She hadn't spoken, but her arms were no longer crossed. There was a flicker of something in her eyes, a longing perhaps. Sarah held her breath, hoping she would find her voice. Finally, it was Susan's turn. The group shifted their attention, and Sarah could see the internal conflict play out on Susan's face. I thought life was about keeping doors closed, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. But maybe it's time to open them. I'm afraid of feeling too much, of losing control. A silence enveloped the room, heavy yet gentle. Everyone had felt that fear. It was the scariest part of vulnerability, the risk of being swept away. Megan stepped forward, her heart in her throat. But what if we learn to swim together? She asked, her sincerity cutting through the tension. What if we catch each other when those waves come crashing? At that moment, a light flickered in Susan's eyes. With a shaky breath, she replied, maybe I can try. The group erupted in supportive laughter and cheers, a collective sigh of relief. They were no longer separate stories, they were woven into a single narrative. And with each confession, the bond tightened, a web of shared fears and collective courage enveloping them. Sarah's heart danced with happiness as she observed the shift. But amid that joy, a sense of caution still clung to the atmosphere. What would happen when the festival was over? When the words had been said and the feelings laid bare, how would everyone deal with the aftermath? Just as she opened her mouth to address this concern, the door swung open, and a newcomer entered. The energy in the room shifted yet again. The face was unfamiliar, but the weariness was evident. Suddenly, it felt like all they'd built was on the brink of something new, something uncharted. What did I miss? The stranger asked, a mixture of curiosity and apprehension in their voice. Sarah stared, the emotions still swirling inside her. Could they really expand this connection? Was there enough space for another? With anticipation crackling in the air, she smiled wide. Just the beginning, she replied, feeling a pulse of hope take root. Was this the moment they'd all been waiting for, or the start of a much bigger challenge? The stranger took a hesitant step into the room, the weight of their presence immediately palpable. Whispers exchanged sideways glances, curiosity mingling with unease. Sarah couldn't help but notice the way the newcomer clutched their jacket, fingers entwined in the fabric as if it were a safety net. "Come on in," Sarah encouraged, gesturing to an empty chair. "We're just starting to share." The group shifted, making room, a subtle invitation for the stranger to join the circle of trust they had begun to build. He eyed them warily, taking a slow breath before crossing the threshold. It was an act of bravery, stepping into a space filled with vulnerability and emotion. "I'm Alex," he introduced himself, his voice low but steady. I've been dealing with some stuff." That simple phrase landed like a stone dropped into a still pond, creating ripples in the atmosphere. The deflections of personal experiences flooded back. The man with the graying beard nodded, urging him to continue. "We're here for you," he said, his voice full of warm encouragement. Alex scanned the room, finally settling on Susan's expectant gaze. "I'm not good at this," he admitted, eyes darting around as if looking for an escape route. "I lost my brother last year. It was sudden, unexpected. I thought I could handle it," but he trailed off, his voice cracking under the weight of his confession. A collective breath escaped the group, recognizing the raw hurt in his words. Everyone had faced their demons, but this felt deeper, like a wound still gaping and unhealed. The young woman from earlier, still processing her own fears, raised her hand once more, but this time, it wasn't just to speak. "I'm so sorry," she said, tears shimmering in her eyes. "I can't imagine how that must feel." The group shifted once more, anchoring themselves in their shared emotions. Sarah's heart ached for Alex. She thought about how often grief could isolate and often felt too daunting to share. She felt the rush of memory cascade around the room, each person confronted by their version of loss. As Alex took a breath, he seemed to gather strength from the room. "He was my best friend as much as my brother. I thought I was over it. But sometimes I wake up feeling like I've lost him all over again." His voice was barely above a whisper, yet it seemed to echo loudly in the collective silence. Suddenly, a revelation sparked in Sarah's mind. "We're a group that can help each other heal," she suggested, her voice coming out steadier than she felt. "We can share stories of those we've lost, and those we've loved. Not just to remember but to honor them, to find a way to let that love guide us." A glimmer sparked in Alex's eyes, a flicker of hope against the backdrop of pain. "Really? You think that would help?" "Yes." Megan jumped in, her enthusiasm infectious. "You're not alone in this. We're all carrying something. And we can share that weight together." As they continued to talk, share, and explore, the room filled with an intimacy that many of them had never felt before. Sarah noticed something bright emerge in the corners of Alex's expression, a small smile breaking through his sorrow like a beam of sunlight. Yet, amid the comfort brewing within the circle, Sarah still sensed an undercurrent of uncertainty. What would it mean for them to take this deeper? And how would their lives shift as they began to confront not just their grief, but the connections that could grow from it? As the discussion turned to shared memories, she felt a rush of anticipation bubble within her. There was still so much left to uncover, emotions still begging to be voiced. How would this new chapter of vulnerability transform their bonds? And what scars from their pasts would resurface as they opened their hearts even wider? With a nervous excitement pulsing in her veins, she braced herself for the next revelation. The journey was just beginning, and it could lead them all to places they had only dreamed of, places that might change everything. Alex's eyes glistened, and the warmth that spread across his face fueled the room with hope. For a moment, Sarah felt that change was palpable, as if they were all standing on the edge of something monumental. "Okay," he said, gathering himself. "I'll start. My brother's name was Ben. He was the kind of person who could find a way to make anyone laugh, even on the worst days. Do you ever just miss their laughter? Like, it's such a small thing but it feels impossible to replace?" His voice broke slightly, and they all nodded, recognizing that emptiness. "Yes," Megan affirmed with a touch of urgency. "It's those little moments that cut the deepest." A wave of silence passed, comfortable yet heavy, and someone cleared their throat. The older man, Robert, leaned slightly forward, his beard catching the light. "I lost my wife 6 months ago. Catherine was my rock, my everything. I keep thinking about her smile and how we used to bury ourselves in blankets to watch our favorite shows. Now, it's quiet, too quiet, and the silence feels heavier than I ever imagined." As Robert spoke, several shared glances of empathy. It was clear that within the rawness of grief, every story reverberated with the others, creating a tapestry of shared suffering. A profound understanding settled among them, knitting their hearts closer. "I think it's those shared memories that make us feel connected, even if they hurt," Sarah said, catching her breath. "Our loved ones wouldn't want us to hide from our feelings. They would want us to celebrate that light they brought into our lives." Alex's eyes widened slightly. "You mean you think I should try to remember the good times? Like, even when it hurts?" "Absolutely," Sarah assured him. "It could bring healing, a way to keep their spirit alive in us." As everyone took turns sharing more memories, fragile moments woven with laughter and tears, they all found relief in each other's presence. Each word seemed to lift the weight of grief, slowly turning it into something that felt almost sacred. "Once, Ben convinced me to go on a spontaneous camping trip with nothing but our backpacks and a cooler of snacks," Alex chuckled, warmth spreading across his cheeks. "I was so angry when we got lost. But he just sat down, pulled out a sandwich and said, 'Look. Toasted bread by nature.' We laughed until we were crying." Laughter bubbled in response, a sweet release of tension. "I'd give anything to hear Catherine's cheesy jokes about cooking disasters," Robert added, a soft smile curving his lips. For a moment, it felt like the laughter honored those no longer present, a celebration of the love that connected them all, both alive and lost. Yet as the laughter faded, an unsettling thought crept into Sarah's mind. What if sharing these memories opened up deeper wounds? What if some stories were still too raw to touch? While she wrestled with these thoughts, Alex looked around, his eyes solemn again. "I guess I've been afraid that if I let go of his memory, I'll lose him completely." Silence descended once more, heavy and contemplative. "Maybe it's not about letting go," Megan suggested. "It's about finding a new way to hold on to those we love, and embracing the lives we still have." Gathered together, they felt the power of that statement wash over them. Empowered by their shared vulnerability, it seemed they were creating a new understanding of love and grief, transforming what they had lost into a source of strength. But just as Sarah felt a sense of belonging blossom within the group, the door swung open. Cold air rushed in, bringing with it a figure they hadn't expected. The newcomer's expression was urgent, eyes darting as if searching for something or someone. "Is Alex here?" they demanded. Every heart in the room raced, fueled by anticipation and confusion. Who was this person, and what were they about to reveal? The room fell silent as all eyes turned toward the door, shock rippling through the group. "I'm Alex," he said cautiously, his voice barely masking his anxiety. The stranger stepped further inside, and the recognition sparked like a live wire in the air. "I'm here for you. It's about Ben. We need to talk." Whispers cascaded through the room as palms gripped on tables and hands reached out, grappling with the sudden pull of gravity. The air was thick with uncertainty. What about him? Alex breathed, stepping closer with confusion etched on his youthful face. The newcomer's brow creased with urgency. He left something for you. He wanted you to have it when the time was right. I think that time is now. The stranger reached into their pocket and pulled out a small, tattered journal. The cover was worn, but Alex recognized it immediately. Alex blinked, emotions swirling. Where did you find that? I found it among his things. I've kept it safe for you, the stranger replied, extending the journal toward him. It's filled with his thoughts, ideas, and things he wanted to tell you. The room hung in a delicate balance. Alex reached out, his hand trembling. He took the journal, fingers brushing over the familiar texture, and a wave of nostalgia washed over him. He wrote all this? Whispered awe escaped his lips. Every word, the stranger nodded. I knew it needed to reach you. He believed in you, Alex. Tears shimmered in Alex's eyes, a bridge between sorrow and hope. He believed in me. A shared collective breath filled the room as they watched this extraordinary moment unfold. It was as if time itself paused, allowing room for grief, healing, and a renewed sense of connection. You know, Ben always talked about how proud he was of you. He wanted to see you thrive, the stranger encouraged gently. I thought you'd want this, to remember him, and for him to live on through you. Alex's gaze flickered from the book to the crowd, seeing familiar faces in a new light. Sarah stepped closer. This is a moment, Alex. It's okay to feel everything. Just like we've talked about, it's about remembering the love, the laughter, and holding it all close. He nodded, overwhelmed but empowered, clutching the journal to his chest like a lifeline. The air felt alive with possibility. I think I'd like to read it now, here, together. Cheers erupted from the group, their spirits buoyed by this moment of bravery and vulnerability. They gathered around, creating a cozy circle as Alex began to leaf through the pages, containing secrets and whispers of brotherly love. With each word he read, they felt the warmth of Ben's spirit enveloping them. He spoke about his dreams for Alex, the memories they shared under starry skies, and little inside jokes that brought laughter. It was as if Ben had stepped into the circle, holding their hands, bringing together laughter and tears like the storm outside once had. Finally, as Alex reached the last page, he paused, his voice choking with emotion. He wrote about never giving up, about being brave enough to face the hardest days. There was a profound silence, hearts touching as truths intertwined. Megan squeezed Alex's shoulder. This is it. This is our strength, a way to support one another through anything. We can build on this, together. Sarah nodded, eyes glistening. Let us make that happen. Let us honor our loved ones by cherishing their memories and creating new ones. With renewed determination, the group began to plan again, but this time, it was with purpose. They would hold regular gatherings, not simply as a way to share their struggles, but to celebrate the lives of those they cherished. As the sun dipped low outside, casting soft golden rays through the windows, it felt as if a new chapter of Maplewood had begun, not defined by loss, but by love, each individual story weaving a tapestry of resilience. What do you say, friends? Sarah asked, her voice bright and steady. Together, we'll become a community that celebrates every moment, the bright, beautiful ones, and the messy, hard ones. We'll uplift each other, always. Together. The group echoed fervently. Joy radiated around the room, their hearts beating in unison, brimming with the warmth of belonging. In that simple act of connecting, tears turned into laughter, grief transformed into gratitude, and the burdens they carried began to feel a little lighter. Tomorrow was uncertain, but today was a new beginning. As they shared hugs, laughter, and shared memories, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The storm may have passed, but the unity formed among them would shine brighter than ever. This is what communities do. They heal, they transform, and they rise together. Now, let us carry this momentum forward. You need to subscribe now to our channel for more powerful stories like this. Leave a like right this second to help us grow in the algorithm. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about Alex's journey and this transformation, and please share this video with at least 5 friends who need a reason to believe in the power of community. Don't wait not even one more second. Your support truly matters.